Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another Is It Worth a Tenner review from Wulong Talks. My name's Jason. I'm the host of the show, as you guys know by now. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Welcome to Wulong Talks. What we do here is we talk about comic books, movies, video games, basically everything to do with geek culture. That's what we're about. And we carry out reviews and we do well, I was going to say a weekly podcast, but it hasn't been very weekly of late, to be honest. But we carry out a podcast as well, where we discuss all of these things and the latest issues and things that have popped up in the pop culture world. Now, this is a slightly different Is It Worth a Tenner review. Why is it slightly different? Well, I'm actually recording video for the first time. Never really actually done any video reviews for the Is It Worth a Tenner reviews in the past. So this is a new venture. I'm trying this out to see how it works and whether my ugly mug can get away with doing reviews on video. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. It will depend on the kind of feedback you guys give me. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, if you are following us on YouTube, or if you didn't know, we actually have a YouTube channel, which you can find at Wulong Talks on YouTube, and there we have a number of different videos that have been posted up there. Some of them are going back a few years, but the plan is going forward to have a lot more video content for you and a lot more things like this. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hello, I'm waving. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, well, I'm waving to you too. So thank you for listening, but unfortunately you can't see me waving. Alright, well, enough with this silly kind of intro. What is It Worth a Tenner? Well, basically what I do with Is It Worth a Tenner reviews is they're a little bit relaxed and they're a bit more informal, and generally what I try to do with them is to give you my thoughts, non-spoiler thoughts on the latest movies and TV shows that I've been watching, and to say whether or not I think they are worth spending a good old £10 note on to enjoy. Now that's kind of whether tenors are even worth it in terms of a parameter for measuring these things is something I'm going to have to look at going forward, because obviously with the proliferation of streaming services and the fact that we've gone through various lockdowns that we have around the world, it means a lot of people haven't been going to the cinema, so we're having to actually watch our stuff on streaming. So it'll be interesting. Maybe that's something I need to look at going forward in the future, but I guess we'll see how things play out and go from there. But yeah, so that's what Is It Worth a Tenner reviews are. So let's crack on, shall we? The first film that I want to let you guys know about is a movie that I actually saw a little while ago. In fact, I saw it in the, would be the third lockdown in the UK. We've had so many lockdowns in the UK, I've lost count, but it would be the third one. And I decided to settle down finally and watch a movie called Doctor Sleep. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Doctor Sleep or don't know much about what the background behind that is, effectively it's a sequel to the movie and the book The Shining, from the famous horror writer Stephen King. The Shining is obviously one of the classics of his works, and it's also a classic movie as well, directed by the legendary Stanley Kubrick, featuring Jack Nicholson in one of his most famous roles. It's one of those horror movies that is kind of almost, rose above the genre. It ascended the genre, so to speak. And became this cult movie, this classic movie that people consider to be one of the greatest ever made. So taking on a sequel to that was always going to be a tall order. Stephen King wrote a sequel to it called Doctor Sleep, and the movie adaptation for it came out in 2019. It's directed by Mike Flanagan, and it stars Ewan McGregor and Rebecca Ferguson in the lead roles. And I have to say, I thought this movie was really, really fantastic. Is it worth a tenner? Yeah, absolutely. Essentially, as said in a nutshell, the story is a continuation of the Shining story, in a sense that Ewan McGregor plays an older Danny Torrance who survived the events of The Shining, and is now kind of living a semi-recluse life, I guess. He's kind of disconnected from the world. He's struggling to kind of deal with the powers that he has, the shining that he's got. and you know, he doesn't really kind of feel like he fits in anywhere in the world, and is basically a bit of a mess. I mean, in fact, when the movie starts, he's really in rock bottom. But through the course of the movie and through events that occur, he discovers that there is a young girl who actually has the same power as him, and he takes it upon himself that he's going to protect this girl from a group of hunters. I can't remember the name of them. I actually wrote it down, so I'm going to go and look at the name of the group. The True Knot, that's it. Sorry, forgot. Yeah, the True Knot. So the True Knot are a group of beings that kind of feed off of people's souls and spirits, and particularly people who have the shining ability. They feed off of it like vampires, and they're pretty vicious. There's like a group of them who are headed by, as said, Rebecca Ferguson and her character, who is just fantastic in this movie. Rebecca Ferguson is so good, like, wow. But anyway, her group are determined, as said, to kind of hunt down any beings who have the shining, who have this power, and through the course of the movie you kind of come to understand why that is. It's necessary for their survival, essentially. Like, they can't live without feeding regularly on this essence and on the spirit of these people. So you know, they kind of have to do it. So you kind of get a sense of why it is they're doing what they're doing, and you kind of can sympathize with them at different points in the story, but my goodness, are they vicious. There's a couple of scenes in this movie. Well, there's one in particular that I'm thinking of, and I said this is a spoilers review, so you know, I won't go into any details or anything like that, but there is one scene in particular that was very difficult to watch for me. It's just fantastically done. Massive credit to all the actors involved in that scene, but my goodness, it's horrible to watch. It really is. Not because it's particularly bloody or anything, it's just the way that it's played out, the way it's acted is superb. And that's the case pretty much throughout the entire movie. The acting is top notch. Ewan McGregor is really good as Danny. He really does kind of convey the sense of confusion and loss and all the things that you would expect to find for, you know, Danny Torrance at this point in his life. He's able to portray well. So that is really cool to kind of see that, you know, play out on the screen. Rebecca Ferguson, as I said before, is just chef's kiss. She's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. You know, I remember her in the Mission Impossible movie that I saw her in as well, and thinking, yeah, she's really good, and she's popped up in loads of like different kind of Brit dramas and stuff over the years, so I was somewhat familiar with her, but here she really is really good, because she manages to get that kind of clever knack where you want your bad guy, particularly in a horror film, you want your bad guy to be evil, but you want their evil to feel normal, if that makes sense. Sometimes if it's too over the top, unless the movie itself is a kind of OTT movie, which I can kind of dig as well, you know, under the right circumstances, but unless your movie is kind of an over the top type of movie, then the villain won't kind of fit in with the movie, if that makes sense. Like, you want the villain's kind of portrayal and the villain's character arc to fit with the kind of narrative and the kind of tone that you've set for your movie, and Rebecca Ferguson just nails it, absolutely nails it. There's a kind of calmness about her creepiness and her evil, and that is another thing that always gets under my skin, when there's an evil character and they're just calm with it. Like, they're not fussed about nothing. They're like, yeah, this is me, this is what I do, like, I'm out here and I'm out here to hurt you. You got a problem with that? That's your problem, not mine. And you know, that really is it says something that kind of really always gets under my skin with that type of a character, and she just nails it, absolutely nails it from start to finish. It's just incredible to watch how she does it, and the way that she does it. aside from that, you know, and I said there's some really fantastic scenes as well. The direction is really good. You know, the set pieces are played out really well. There's some incredibly imaginative visuals, and good use of kind of practical visual effects as well as CGI, which is refreshing as well. There was a lot of practical effects and a lot of work went into putting together some of the kind of visual set pieces that you see in the movie. So it was really kind of, it really kind of lends a feeling of authenticity to it, you know. So I would say, you know, those were definite kind of pluses. It does a really good job of kind of expanding on the pre-existing Shining mythology and story as well. It was always going to be tricky to kind of adapt that, as said, because The Shining is so beloved, because, you know, the book is so famous, and because the movie is so famous. It was always going to be a tall order to try and carry on from, you know, directly from that story and then go into your own narrative and try to keep your own tone, your own style, your own themes, whilst also paying homage to, you know, the original movie. But as said, largely this film knocks it out of the absolute park. My only one drawback would be maybe the third act. In the third act of the movie, there is more of a direct tie-in to The Shining. Again, I'm trying to do this without spoiling too much for you. So there's more of a direct tie-in to the original Shining, and some of the homages don't come off as well as they should, and the story just kind of slightly loses its way a little bit for me towards the end. But it's a minor gripe. Really is a minor gripe, I promise you. It's not that big a deal. The Shining is you know, a fantastic film, and Doctor Sleep deserves to be up right next to it as a fantastic sequel and a fantastic part to that story. So is it worth a tenner? Yes, absolutely. Go and see it. How can you see it? Well, if you're in the UK, I believe it's on Prime Video for rental. When I rented it, it was $7.99. I don't know if the price has changed. I assume it's still $7.99, but yeah, it was a one-off fee that I had to pay to rent it, to watch it. So you can go and check it out from there, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it on other streaming services as well if that's not your thing. So yeah, just have a look around, but definitely check out Doctor Sleep. It's definitely worth the wait. Okay, there is another film I just want to quickly talk about with you as well. This is another one that I would recommend to you. I would say it is worth a tenner, but it is a bit niche, this one, so I'll let you know anyway. I'm a big documentary fan, as those of you who've listened to the podcast in the past know. You know, I really do like a good documentary. I think it probably comes from, you know, my desire to kind of learn more about the world around me, and it's something that I've always wanted to do as a kid. I've always wanted to learn more about things. And you know, documentaries kind of are a way of a window into somebody else's world. So you know, for me, I really enjoy watching documentaries and getting into those. One of the documentaries that I have checked out recently is one called 9.79. Now 9.79 is about the Seoul Olympics, which I believe was in 1988. And it's about a man that some of you may or may not know, called Ben Johnson, who at one point was the fastest man on earth. He was a sprinting athlete. He ran 100 meters and he represented Canada. And he was something of a global superstar, much in the way that, you know, Usain Bolt would be today. However, he ran and competed in the Seoul Olympics. He won in a record time, a then record time of 9.79 seconds, beating his rival Carl Lewis from the United States of America, a guy who, yeah, let's say he's Marmite. Carl Lewis is definitely Marmite. You either love Carl Lewis or yeah. But he was kind of Ben Johnson's chief rival and his chief kind of threat to him winning the gold medal at the Olympics, and Ben Johnson beats him in the race. But as the kind of fallout of that race comes around, the athletes then have to be tested as part of kind of protocol, and it's found that Ben Johnson had been taking banned substances during this race. And I remember, when this race actually happened as a kid, because I was a big athletics fan and I really enjoyed athletics and I really enjoyed watching it on TV, and it was one of those sports that you got free on TV, and Ben Johnson was a real hero of mine. He was a massive hero of mine. I loved Ben Johnson, I really thought the world of him, as a lot of kids did. As said, he was a huge role model and somebody that people really looked up to. And when it came out that he had been taking substances and essentially been cheating for large parts of his career, it was an absolute shocker. It really was a massive shock to many people, because, as said, nobody kind of knew that Ben Johnson was doing that, and there were so many people who looked up to him. There were so many sponsors who were involved in kind of backing his career and things like that. So what 9.79 as a documentary does really, really well is kind of examine the fallout from that incident, and how this had a massive ripple effect across many of the top athletes in that time who were competing at that time that Ben Johnson was competing. And you come to realize how desperate and gladiatorial sports can become, in a sense that people's professional athletes, essentially their livelihood is what they do, is their sport. And if there is one person who is seemingly dominating this field that you're in, and you discover that person is flexible with the law, shall we say, then you start to question, well, should I be flexible with the law then? Is that a way that maybe I could forge my career and move ahead and be competitive and be successful and achieve the things that I've set out to achieve? And hearing these other athlete stories as well as Ben's stories in the documentary really kind of brings home to you how high stakes the world of professional athletics is, and how much people are willing to go and how far they're willing to go in order to achieve success. Is it worth watching? I would say yes, definitely. It really is interesting to assess on the human level to see how far a person will go in order to achieve what it is they feel they need to achieve. I will say, if you're not interested in athletics, then don't worry, because this documentary doesn't focus that much on the technicalities of the sport. It's more about the people who are within the sport and those who are taking part at that time, and the impact that Ben Johnson's actions had on them and on generations after as well. So 9.79 is my second recommendation for you. It's definitely worth a tenner. Go and check that out where you can. I was able to view it via the Google video service. Google had it available for rental, which was about like £1. I think I paid for it, so it really wasn't a lot. So I would say, if you are interested in something, and if you're interested in documentaries, and particularly documentaries about kind of, as said, human beings and being put into difficult positions and the decisions that they make when they're put into difficult positions, then go and check out 9.79. Alright, I think that's going to do it for my first video attempt at a Is It Worth a Tenner review. If you're watching the video, thanks very, very much for watching. Do please leave your feedback. I'd love to hear from you. I said this is the first time I'm doing this, so maybe it was good, maybe it was terrible, I don't know. Let me know either way. And yeah, thanks a lot for that. For those of you listening via iTunes or via Spotify, then thanks a lot. Don't forget to leave us a review. And again, for you YouTube watchers, we do have an audio version of the podcast which has been going for some time, and you can check that out on Apple, on Spotify, and various other places as well. All you need to do is search for that on your favorite podcast app. Just search for Woo Long Talks and you will find us there. Alright, well, that's it from me. Thanks a lot, I'll be back again hopefully with another video review for you soon. Until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the other side. Peace.